Hello friends of Golf Course Quality Fertilizer. Well, it's still going to be dry for a while. Now, I hope you're doing those deep and long irrigation cycles. And I know last time when I was doing the video, I was a little, my wife's going to get wet and cold from our sprinkler, but I was saying, don't water and water, and I think that was kind of confusing. Yeah, I was starting to confuse myself, but what I'm saying is don't water every day, but when you do water, soak it down nice and deep, right? So we call it deep and infrequent, right? And so hopefully you've been bumping up your time, seeing how far away you can get away with. I bumped up my time. I used to do 3 hours in each zone. I started doing 4 hours in each zone. I've seen a huge improvement as far as longevity. She's gonna get wet again and get cold. And longevity, I mean, it's been really actually quite amazing, the areas I have. I love actually working with just a sprinkler and a hose, so that's how I work. I'm doing 4 hours of sprinkler or hose. That's basically twice as much as what you would do if you had an irrigation system, because irrigation heads, they hit head to head and then they basically hit everywhere twice. And we're going to talk about all these little things in this video of why we might be still having some issues, what issues we're going to be looking for with our irrigating all the time and not having rain as a supplement, which it is a big advantage having a rain supplement, right? So, and you might see the camera flinch it every so often. That's just because she got hit with some cold water, which is quite amusing for me. Anyways, all right, so first and foremost, to stop most arguments between husbands and wives, I got to talk about this. It's called irrigating the flowers, right? And so if you're going to have a good irrigation system that's going to work for a lawn and the landscape, they have to be separated, because there's no way you can water the landscape the same way you can water the lawn, and vice versa. Lawn needs to have deep cycles that have a long time to kind of go in between without, and flowers might need daily cycles, or even if it's annuals, it could be multi-daily cycles. So if you're going to have a good lawn, you have to separate those two zones. Flowers, separate zone from lawn. That's super important. I know a lot of people out there who have them mixed up, and I'm constantly talking to one, hey, you got to go deeper and longer, and they're like, but the flowers, and the flowers always win, guys. Flowers always win. So you got to change the system, or your lawn's going to get some diseases and other things like that. That's just the way it goes. Another thing, very important, in the system itself, there's two different types of sprinkler heads we're used to. One is called the rotors that go back and forth like this, and others are called pop-up misters, which pop up and just stay stationary and constantly run, right? And they put out different amounts of water. One thing that's very important, they cannot be in the same zone. You can't have rotors and a mister in the same zone. And it's, once again, you're gonna water not enough with this guy or way too much with this guy, or vice versa, depending on the amount of time. My pump kicked on, it really got her that time, that was good. And anyway, so it's very important to make sure that if you have a mister, there's a separate, different type of sprinkler nozzle you'll put in that mister, which turns it more into a pinwheel, and now it can operate the same as a rotor sprinkler head. So you have to make those changes, or the irrigation thing's not going to work out very well at all. So that's a very important thing to know as well. Head to head, that's another important thing. Every sprinkler system, irrigation system, if this head is not reaching this head here, and vice versa, then it's too far apart, and you're going to get these weird little non-watered areas that aren't watering good enough. You'll have to bump up your times to kind of make up for that. And so make sure your irrigation is going from head to head, and that includes those misters. If the mister pops on, it's reaching the other mister, and that mister should be reaching this mister, right? And so that's set up, that's important. If you don't have it that way, adding in some heads or moving some heads around is going to be helpful for you in order to achieve, a good irrigation system all around, right? Another thing to think about too is if everything's operating fairly well, and we're sitting here and we have really nice looking areas right now, but other areas that are dry, then we need to check out the sprinkler heads and make sure they're operating properly, right? And so we're gonna move her this way a little bit so she gets splashed a little less. So yeah, you're gonna have to make sure, what was I talking about, sprinkler issues? Oh yes, that they're operating properly. So for example, I've had some people talking about how right around the sprinkler is really dry. Well, that means that that sprinkler has nothing breaking up the stream of water, and you have to dial these things down a little bit, and it breaks up that stream of water. Now you'll get a better operation around the head itself. So mess with sprinkler heads if you got dry zones. The telltale sign is a problem with sprinkler heads is that you have several areas that are in good condition, right? And then you have a lot of others that are suffering, or certain areas that are suffering. There is one other situation that it could be, and that would be hydrophobic soils. So where actually the water will run off, it gets this waxy secretion from the dead organic matter that covers the roots and the soil particles and actually makes it hydrophobic, and it makes it really hard to keep enough water there. In those kind of situations, you're going to have to use a wetting agent in order to break up that hydrophobic soil in order to make it work. What do we got? We got a visitor? All right. Also, another important thing about the hydrophobic soils is that you'll have to get something on there and water that in really good, or it won't rinse that down. Another thing we're going to start to see as well as we're going through and we're only using our irrigation system, you're going to see the grass start to lose its color a little bit, not as good as it normally looks dark green. And there's actually a scientific reason for that, and that's because the CECs, or what we call the CAT, ionic exchange capacity sites, and these are sites in the soil and in the plants that hold onto a nutrient and make it available to a plant. And so with these guys being all tied up with calciums and irons that come from our water, from our ground, they will stop being able to bring in as much nutrients. And so you're going to start losing some color from that. Until it rains, and rain being completely pure H2O will rinse those sites off, and then you'll actually see a green up after a rain. So we want a rain so we can kind of get that reprieve from that. So if you're seeing some weird colors, it's probably because that you have to irrigate for like a month in a row. You'll start to see those things popping up. Now, if you're seeing yellowing grasses, right, in low areas and stuff like that, that means that the water is standing there for too long, and then it's not able to absorb nutrients that way. It's a different thing than what I'm talking about, losing color kind of everywhere kind of situation. And it's more drastic when it's water sitting plants that can't absorb nutrients because there's no gas exchange down there. So if you're seeing those kind of lime green colored areas, that's an oversaturated area, and you're gonna have to kind of check out how you can stop getting that so wet for so long. It needs to be able to dry out and then get wet, and dry out and then get wet. That's why we want to do that long cycle, go as long as you can. So I, with 4 hours, which equates to 2 hours, have been able to get away with 3 days in between. And matter of fact, even this morning, I wasn't seeing any drought, but I decided to go ahead and run this next cycle again because it's been long enough in between. And I know we got 90s coming. So I wanted to go ahead and get a real good soak today. Then I'll probably let my indicator spot tell me in the future to start watering again here, which it might be 4 days, it might be 2 days, depends on how windy it is. So I hope all these tips helped you kind of dial some little nuances that kind of can sneak through on people. And thanks for listening. If you have any questions, just email the office. If you're a customer, if you're just a subscriber to our channel, just enter something in the comment thing, like our page, and share it. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later.